So as you're thinking about your portfolio and composing it, it's also a good time to start thinking about how you're going to present yourself to the marketplace, to potential employers and potential clients. So this is Unit 4, Crafting Your Professional Portfolio, and we are talking about your resume. And I'm Alvalin Lundgren, and I'm guiding you through this process. Again, our goal is that you're going to develop a portfolio that's flexible, professional, appropriate in scope, that showcases the kind of work that you want to do and the things you're best at. And our goal is also that you will have an effective resume. You've created an artist statement that summarizes your approach and how you think about your work, and a cover letter. So let's start with your resume, because that will be the backbone of everything. So what is a resume? It's a summary statement. It's a summary presentation of your experience, of your qualifications for a particular, shall we say, position, or to take on a particular kind of project. And I'll just say right here that being client-oriented rather than employment-oriented, I have not used a resume very often. Those times where I did look for in-house freelancing, or I was working with a freelance temp agency, I did supply a resume. But most of the time when I'm just working client direct, I'm meeting with a client for an initial consultation, they're looking at my work. No one's ever asked me to present a resume. I do have an information package or a press kit, and that's in a digital format, which can be downloaded from my website. But that's the extent of my use of a resume. So with that disclaimer, I've also looked at a ton of resumes and advised on them. So what they should contain are a summary statement. It used to be an objective statement, what you want to achieve by sending out the resume to the particular person. Hey, I'm looking for a job that's going to help me advance my career, in which I can contribute. That has given way to a summary statement because it's assumed if you're applying for the job that you're looking for the job. So a summary statement is more of a mini artist statement, which is why we're also going to be talking about the artist statement a little later on. Your resume is going to highlight your experience, your job experience, your work experience, recognitions and awards, things like that. It's going to include your education. To a lot of employers, education is important, and it's also going to include your contact information. So basically those four pieces, or those four types of information, are what are essential for your resume. The length of your resume should be 1 page. There is no reason it should be more than 1 page, unless you are applying for a position where a CV, a curriculum vitae, is necessary. A curriculum vitae is an extended resume with a lot of information. It's multiple pages, but a regular resume for your purposes should be no more than 1 page. I want to address this because as creatives, we want to use the resume to promote our creative thinking and our visual ability. So we don't just want to throw together something in a Word document that's all text and you've got indentations and bullet points and you send that out. On the other hand, you don't want to be overly stylized or overly complex with your resume. And there's a couple reasons for that. Resumes nowadays most of them are scanned and filtered. If you have too much stuff going on your resume, it's too cluttered, it may not scan and filter well. And so you want to be careful about that. So people don't just hold these things in their hands, they actually look at them on screen, and they look at them on screen because they've been filtered. An employer posts a job to Indeed or Glassdoor, and then you respond with a PDF, and then that goes through a filtering process. If your resume is too complex, too hard to read, not easily scannable, it's not going to serve you well. So you want to create a piece that is going to present who you are in the right way, but not be overly done. There are a lot of resume templates out there. In fact, I Googled resumes or, top 10, resume designs for creatives or artists or graphic designers, and I got a lot of templates. So these are both template-based, and how many other people are using the same template? So do you want to go custom or do you want to go customized? If you decide to use a template, which that's your choice, make sure that you customize it enough so that really does fit you, because very often templates don't. They are a abbreviated way or a shortcut to a designed layout, but they may not be appropriate for what you're trying to communicate about yourself. But we can see here that there's a hierarchy of information. We've got the name. This one includes a photo. This one says curriculum vitae, and that's not spelled correctly, so that's a big problem right there. So we'll talk about proofreading a little later on. There's a summary statement. This has an objective statement. It's got the contact information. It's got education. It's got brief bullet points. Both of these have a lot of skill ideas. And this one has a listing of experience. This one, the experience is kind of secondary. Both of these, though, are fairly well organized in terms of zones of information and in terms of hierarchy. These are of actual people. Notice that there's a similarity here. There's a narrow left-hand column and a wider right-hand column. And on Marina's, the right-hand column is again divided into two zones. This skill set is kind of popular. I don't know that it's necessary. I don't know how much that communicates. Do you really want an employer to know that you're only 3/4 proficient in Photoshop? And then again, based on what standard? I could be only 3/4 proficient in Photoshop, and I've been using Photoshop for years. These kind of charts and infographic things where, I'm not very good at this, but I'm really good at that. I mean, really, do you want to highlight what you're not really good at? Think about how you would use something like that. But again, the contact information, the skills here, the portfolio website, always include the portfolio website in your contact information. This one leads with education. So this is a student who's just graduating, and that's the first thing they put in there. That tells people that they're right out of school, so they're looking for entry level. So how you arrange the information zones in your resume, what comes first, second, third, that hierarchy is going to be a clue to your potential employer what level you are at. My recommendation is that you always start with experience and keep education at the bottom, even if you're out of school, even if you don't think you have a lot of experience. It's just where you put things in the hierarchy shows how you're thinking about the position. So I would do more of the experience first and then do education down at the bottom. Another thing to be concerned about is there's the extra space here, which is really unfortunate because this is a graphic designer. It's not consistent, of course, with the business card, but you need to watch things like that. Good design is in the details, and if I were looking at this, I would look at that and wonder, what does this mean with that extra space in there? And then if I saw it alongside the business card, I would go, oh, that's a mistake. That's a typographical error that is huge. Not hiring this person because they're not watching the details. Infographic style resumes are somewhat popular, and so that's what this is. Again, this is a template. And again, it's got the skills, it's got the about. It's not leading with experience, it's leading with other things. This is understated. This may be overstated depending upon who the employer is. This probably would not fly if you're going for a corporate in-house job. It probably will fly if you are applying for a job at a more innovative design firm or ad agency. Either way, the design of your resume should reflect who you are. So we have, again, two very different resumes, and she starts out with her education, moves into her experience, and the contact information. So she's presenting as a student, he's presenting as a professional. Another thing, you don't need to include hobbies or affiliations on your resume. That's a cover letter piece of information, or that's an interview piece of information. It is not a resume piece of information. So those are some resume styles. Again, some are templates and some are not. Common ground in all of these is an information hierarchy, information zones, different parts of the real estate on the page occupied by different things. And again, what you lead with at the top of your page after your name is going to set the stage for how the employer is going to receive you. Mentioned earlier that a summary statement is replacing the objective statement of ages past. So a summary statement is basically who are you and what do you do? And it should be no more than 3 sentences, if even that. If you can say it in 1 sentence, go for it. Lead with your experience, always. It sets the stage differently than if you start with your education. If your education is the thing that the employer wants to focus on and you can pick that up through their job listing, then you might want to start with your education, but I think that's very rare. Some people hiring will look for people coming out of certain schools. Happens in all industries. If you know that the company hires mainly out of your particular school, then you will want to highlight your education in some way. But I still would say lead with your experience. If your school is known for a certain thing and you've done that certain thing in school and you are pushing toward that certain thing within the industry, you want to highlight your affiliation with that particular school in your education section. The 8-second rule applies to attracting people's attention. So basically you have 8 seconds when somebody looks at something to engage them. And if you're not able to do it within those 8 seconds, you basically lost the battle. Think about the resume coming across somebody's desk. What is going to captivate them? What's going to keep them there longer than 8 seconds? And so you want to be brief. You don't want a lot of copy. You want to be brief and relative and highlight the right things. Talk about the results that your work has achieved. One of the things that I talk about on my website is that I have helped businesses succeed. And I talk about one particular client who increased their business 500% over a 4-year period because of the work that I did, the visuals that I created for them. They were able to connect with their audience. They were able to build loyalty because of the graphic design, visual branding work that I did for them. That's the kind of result you want to talk about. How does your work impact? How does it change the atmosphere where you are? How does it change things for your clients? How does it, what is the impact? What is the result of the work that you've done? And you can couch this in, even if you've done internships and you don't really have any employment work, or you might want to highlight maybe a non-design employment where you got great results. So look at the results of your work and highlight that. In these resumes, I talked about these skills and how competent you are in the certain technologies and capabilities. The soft skills, the ability to manage a project, the ability to create a budget, the ability to lead people, those are all soft skills that employers might be looking for. So consider what you're good at beyond just your creative work. Consider how you work with people, consider how you manage projects and time, how you manage money. What are those things that you bring to the table above and beyond your amazing creative talent? One of the things you can do also is look for clues to the skills that they're looking for within the job description itself. Especially if you're applying for a corporate position, like an in-house art department, and certain design agencies and ad agencies that focus on more business-oriented rather than, say, retail or other kinds of innovation. You want to avoid using design vocabulary. One of the reasons for that is it's not going to get picked up as easily by the resume filtering systems used in the application process. And also, most likely, if it's a larger company, you're going to be talking with an HR person first and not with a creative director or who's going to be hiring you onto their team. So you want to avoid using design-based language. Use the general business vernacular to talk about your work. Always review your work before you send it out the door. Look at it in terms of proofreading typographically and critiquing visually. Design your resume, but don't over-design it. I don't recommend using a template. Make it your own. You can use negative space. Use it well. You can use a lot of negative space. Look at Shivanji. The majority of the page is unoccupied, and the negative space helps focus on the message. So showcase your creative talents in designing your resume. You also want to include keywords that you pick up from that job posting, because that's what the filtering software is going to be looking for to match the resume to the job description. Those that pass muster will land on the desk of the people that are doing the hiring. Follow the general convention. Put your name at the top and the contact information nearby. Lead with a summary statement. Then in terms of the actual body of the resume, start with experience, then include your skills, focus more on your soft skills than your technical skills, and then include your education. So that's the order that I recommend. Again, if you are customizing your resume based on the job description, you may want to rearrange things. So again, we have the hierarchy. We have the name at the top. We have the contact information here. We have a summary statement. She's leading with her skills and then her experience. And again, what you lead with in the body is up to you and the job description. Education and other recognitions and also RANs here. Don't include references. Don't say that you'll provide references upon request. You don't need to. Again, with Marina, her name is upper left and her contact information. She moves into her experience, into her skills, background, and education. Cover letters are a necessary part of attracting clients and getting a job. So a cover letter is basically a letter that's sent to accompany something to explain what's inside or what's being presented. It's not a reiteration of your resume. It is a foundation, or it sets the stage. It gives the recipient an understanding of what they can expect. It's also a statement of interest. So you are saying, hey, I heard about this job. I think it's a really good fit for me. And then you launch into your experience. And this is what you can bring to the table. This is how you can benefit the employer. This is how you can benefit the client. You are introducing yourself and indicating interest in the offered position or in working with the client. So you explain who you are and what you're all about while you're sending the resume. The cover letter is a piece of business correspondence, so it needs to be crafted in the general business manner. Writing a "to whom it may concern" is your least effective salutation. You want to write to a specific person as much as possible. So to the best of your ability, find out a target person that the cover letter needs to be addressed to. Cover letter, like the resume, should be 1 page. There's no reason for it to be more than that. Cover letter should accompany the resume. In a PDF, if you're sending your resume digitally, your cover letter will be the first page and your resume will be the second. They need to kind of look like each other. This is, again, using that template. And you can see how the cover letter is pretty much exactly like the resume page. They go together, and that's the basic idea of using branded stationery. But brand is basically your overall reputation. And a brand is how people identify you and make decisions about you. Branding is the stuff you use to build your brand, the stuff you create to influence people, the stuff you put out there. So branding is how you become known. Brand is what you're known for. Branding is also necessary for marketing. When you are seeking a job, when you are looking for clients and prospecting, you are marketing. You have to get your message out there so that people come to you. Marketing is essentially sharing your message, whether or not you're paying for it, like in advertising, or you're just telling people, hey, I'm looking for this particular position, or you're looking for a certain type of client, or you put something up on your website. That's marketing. So, and we always market all the time. We are always marketing. We're trying to share our message and convince people to come our direction. In your cover letter, like in your resume, you want to pull keywords and use keywords and phrases that exist within the job posting. So if you don't know what to write about, that's one quick way to get going on what to say. What does the job require? What are the keywords in the job description that's posted? Craft your letter to fit those. Use those exact keywords because, again, filtering systems. You want to make sure your cover letter and your resume get past the initial filters. Essentially, restate the job description in your own words and how you fit that description. What qualifies you for the job? Expand on the resume. In a cover letter, I could expand on my experience working with the client who grew his business 500% over 4 years by using the stuff I created. You also want to explain why you're applying for the position and how you think it's a good fit. Like the resume, customize it, tailor it to the job that you want to get. So have a template cover letter along with your template resume in InDesign or Illustrator, whatever you're doing it in, and modify it for each job and potential employer. Also, proofread it. Again, typos will get you nowhere. Proofread it, spell check it, have other people read it. Make sure it is excellent going out the door. If you are looking for employment or looking for clients, you won't be dealing with an artist statement. You won't have to have one if you want to exhibit, if you want to apply for grants, if you want to sell your work to collectors, then you need an artist statement. The thing that makes an artist statement useful for our purposes is that we can take a very truncated, a very brief version of it as our summary statement. So an artist statement is basically a description of your work or your approach to your work. It can also be a description of your style. And there is no one way to write an artist statement. It should be something that comes from you, so it would be written in your own vernacular. You don't want an artist statement that sounds like somebody else wrote it. It should fit on one page. You can use the artist statement on your website as lead-in text or a summary. And that's another place where it becomes beneficial to state what you're all about. Your artist statement can be about an individual piece of work, or it can be about your overall collective body of work. And as I said, consider an artist statement as the basis for your summary statement on your resume. Another thing to keep in mind, it's not a biography, so it's not a list of your awards. It is not your education. It is not a resume. An artist statement it talks about your approach, so it's much more conceptual. And the biggest advantage of writing an artist statement is to be able to talk about your work. A lot of times we'll create work and there's a consistency to it, and we recognize there's a consistency to it, but we don't talk about it. We don't try to articulate what that is. So creating an artist statement is going to give you the ability to step back from your work, observe it, and say, okay, this is what my work is about. I had a student in a mid-level design class who all of her work was made out of natural material. Everybody else was using foam core and other things, but she was using wood and natural materials. And that was part of her approach because that's what she was drawn to. So again, your artist statement is all about you and your work. Your cover letter is how you are suited for a position and the benefits that you bring. A resume points out how you're qualified for a particular position. So for the assignment, you're going to create a first draft of your resume. And you're going to include the information we've talked about, your name and contact information, a summary statement. You're going to talk about your experience, your skills, and your education. And that's basically it. You're going to design it so that it fits you. And this is a first draft. We will refine it over the coming weeks. I'll upload it as a PDF into the coursework area for this session. And that's it. If you've got questions, ask them in the session forum or send me a text or an email.